The fondest memory I think I have of Delta Lambda, well, number one was the day I was initiated, and number two, when I became the president of this chapter in 1983.
I think when I really became active with the chapter, at the time, the chapter had a house on Clifton Avenue, and they had various activities going on there. And one of the activities was to kind of like improve or restore that old building. So I became a project with the president at the time was Shelton, and they were doing some work, and so I helped with that project, and I became active restoring some of the building, and then I became active with some guy's name, can't remember the name now, but anyway, the poker players. So Wednesday's activities, we met, and the chapter was our kind of like hangout spot. So I became part of that poker group and bonded well. Afterwards, though, I think they thought of me as kind of like take charge of some activities. So I became, I ran the pledge program for Delta Lambda, and I started with some activities like the crab. We had a crab feast started, and then I part of the tennis tournament. I was part with Kelly and I. We had played tennis. He kind of pulled me into tennis, and hence I pulled him into running a tournament. So that's kind of like my highlights here.
Well, my fondest memory is the year I chaired the 85th anniversary convention of Alpha Phi Alpha, the general convention held in 1991 in Baltimore, Maryland.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, it's been considered by many for a lot of years one of the best conventions that Alpha ever had. All of Delta Lambda chapter worked together to ensure that we showed our visitors a very excellent time. Brother Stansbury was my co-chair, and we had very good activities for the ladies and the women and children. We had a lot of business was taken care of by the brothers, but we still had time for people to get around the city of Baltimore, to go into the Inner Harbor, to visit our restaurants, and it was just a real good convention.
My fondest memory of Delta Lambda chapter is the brotherhood and camaraderie. How the brothers who were in the neighborhood made you as a newcomer feel welcome. And that was great. But alphas, look out for alphas.
I guess my fondest memory would be of the brothers that I met here in Delta Lambda, men who were striving to develop themselves professionally, socially, and civically. And this interested me in what we were trying to do.
I guess Delta Lambda chapter has been a very congenial group. You know, they were very active, and had some friends who were in the Army Reserves with me, and they were members of Delta Lambda because we were at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Southern University has one of the, it's the only, at that time, transportation called ROTC, and we used to go to summer camp at Fort Eustis, Virginia. And there I met some alphas from Baltimore. And when I moved here, of course, they wouldn't let me go. And that's how I became affiliated with Delta Lambda. But I was really looking for a good alpha chapter. And that's how I became acquainted with Delta Lambda.
I moved to Baltimore in about 1966, and I joined Delta Lambda about 2 years later in 1968, and that was a real opener because I had a neighbor of mine who was the president of Delta Lambda, and I didn't know anything about it until we met. And when he realized I was an Alpha, he said, you've got to come and become active with the chapter. His name was Herman Sidnor, and he was the president of the chapter.
My fondest memory of Delta Lambda is I found very early the tremendous fellowship and love and caring that the brothers have for each other.